not only dependent on my husband emotionally, but I was also dependent on him for financial support. Everyone, I am Tamara, your host, and welcome to the Woman of Podcast. So, today I will be talking a little bit about a suggestion from one of my viewers. So, on my last video, I mentioned how it was losing the person I was dependent on for emotional support and everything else. A viewer suggested that I spoke a little bit about how I handle getting independent. So there was a lot of things that I I wasn't responsible for while I was married. Like I was not only dependent on my husband emotionally, but I was also dependent on him for financial support, meaning I was also earning, but he was the one who was responsible for most of the big decisions when it comes to our finances, when it comes to planning anything for the family. He was solely responsible for that, and I was just there when he left, and I was by myself with the girls, and my son was still young. I didn't right away, I didn't grasp what the concept of everything that was happening right away, and it took some time for me to realize that, hey, you are going to be the one who will be making all the big decisions, and you will be the one who will be financially responsible for this family, and you will be the one who will have to be there emotionally for your kids. And I'm telling you, at first I was just living. So I didn't do much thinking about anything. I was just mourning, like um I was mourning like my ex-husband had died, because that's how it felt. Even though conversations were still there and all of that, that's how it felt, because I had to take up everything on my own, because it was gone, gone, gone. There was no um there was no going to him for my big decisions. There I couldn't go to him for certain help financially. He was there. You would take care of his kids, and you do what you could do to help us financially, but the bulk of everything else was left on me. I think getting independent financially was one of the hardest things that I had to do. So at first I was just living, I was just spending, I didn't do any budgeting. I bought fast food like every night. I rarely go to the supermarket, and if I go to the supermarket, I'm just buying dry stuff. I was not eating properly, and I know I wasn't feeding my kids properly, but I was just going through a phase. We're all human, so we are allowed to go through our phases. The thing that is bad is if you get into a phase and you get stuck into it. So the first thing that I had to deal with was my finances. So it's hard for me to budget, because I'm the type of person who just look at the bills and look what needs to be done, and full right straight out panic. Yes, so I remember when I was being trained as a health coach, and they say I should write down all my expenses for a month, and I was sitting with the pen and paper in my hand, and I'm saying, how am I going to do this, because there is just so much. And that is one of the things that helped to bring me to the realization that budgeting needs to be done. So I was writing down all the stuff that I spent on, and I was looking at the paper now, the book, and I was like saying, oh my God, do I even make this much money? Do I even get this much money from my ex-husband? And I was realizing that even though I was panicking and looking at the book and looking at all that was being spent, I'm realizing that, oh, most, almost all of these bills were being paid. So I realized that yes, all this money was coming in, and it's just that I was just spending blindly. I was doing a lot, I was getting a lot of things that I wouldn't necessarily have to do. And yes, fast food every night was one of them, almost every night. So i had to I had to bring myself up. I had to get a hold of myself and say, look, this is what needs to be done. So I started doing budgeting, not good budgeting, but just writing down things that needs to get paid and things that I need to do. And even when I go to my kids' school, I I had a book, right? And I was writing down everything that they will say in the PTA meetings. Because remember, I know before I wasn't doing all of this, I was just there, the wife that cooks, the wife that takes care of the home, the wife that takes care of the kids. And even though I worked and I was getting my money, my ex-husband wasn't concerned about the amount that I get and stuff like that. So because he was bringing in the bulk of the money, so there's a lot of things and decisions that I was not involved in. So I started out small. I started writing down stuff that I would need to get done as reminders, because trust me, if I don't use reminders, I don't remember to do anything. So if you are like me, you need to get a book. So at one point I had one book that has everything, my business and personal stuff, and then I realized that I was getting overwhelmed, right? I i couldn't concentrate. When I opened that book, it was like a whirlwind. So what I did was I started separating the book. So I had one for my business, where I would outline all that I need to get done and all that I want to do, and I have one for my personal use, for my kids and all that I want to get done. And after that, I could see myself a little bit clearer, a little bit more. Um, that was just like the first thing that I did to gain back my independence. So I I'm gonna talk about this, and this one is a real big joke. So I was taking taxis, and this is me, because I never like I'm in a car and there's a whole lot of persons, and my kids were in there, and sometimes they'd get overwhelmed, because while my ex-husband was here, we had a car and he would drive us places. So I decided that I need a car. So I remember when the car dealer called, and he said, hey Tamara, you can come in to get your car now. The papers are sorted out and everything. You just need to come, and you just need to go to the tax office and get your papers and stuff ready. And I didn't say anything to anyone, even though my kids knew I was trying to get this car, and my friends knew, people that were close to me. I didn't say anything, but that's me. When I am trying to make big decisions or anything, I usually just get quiet and I stay to myself until I can decide what to do. Because sometimes if you're in a crowd and there's too much noise, you can't think. And that's me. So I was in my room and I was saying to myself, so I am going to be responsible for license and insurance, and I, I was going to be responsible for this car if I need tires and stuff, and I straight out panic. So the next day I called the dealer and I said, listen, can I cancel the whole thing? And he said, why would you want to do something like that? But all I was thinking is the responsibility. And I called my friend and I said to her, I got through and I am supposed to go pick up my car. And she said, then why are you telling me this? Why are you talking to me about this? Why am I not seeing the car? And I'm saying I'm straight out panicking. I didn't know how to change a tire. I didn't know, I never went to the gas station and pumped gas for myself. And that was frightening. So I I had to do a lot of going out there and just taking the bull by the horn, as they would say, and this was one of the times. So I went, I got my car, and like everything else that I did, I started writing information down. But here the crazy part. The first year that my insurance was supposed to be renewed, I was driving around for like 2 months and I did not check the papers. I did not check, and if I was not stopped by a police and issued a ticket, I would know. So I'm saying all of this to say that you are never going to be sure of what you are doing. Like, you are not going to be 100% confident, and there's no easy way to get independent. You just have to look at the important things, look at the things that you need to do, and you just have to get it done. Simple. You know that there is no one else coming to do these things for you. There's no one else that can save you, because sometimes, you will have people around and you will trust them to do certain things, but they will not have your best interest at heart like you would have your best interest at heart, right? So you just have to come to the realization that the certain things you just need to do. So you do your budgeting, get a book. If you're operating a business and you have your kids, you separate the two. So just like I did, because I put it together and it was confusing. So you separate the two, you get a book for everything. You write down everything that you need to remember. I am a person who likes writing down things. Some people use like reminders on their phone, but even though the reminders are on my phone, that's just not my thing. So I just write down everything. I try budgeting my way, meaning I write down the things that I need to get done, and payments that need to be made, and I tick things off. I get a book for my kids and I bring it to like their PTA meetings. So when these announcements are made, I write down what needs to be done, and that is how I stay effective. All right, so there's no right or wrong way of becoming independent. Another aspect of independence that you might have to deal with after divorce is being emotionally dependent on yourself. I did mention something about that in my last video, but the fact is that you might have persons to talk to, and you might have persons that you are able to depend on. Sometimes you are going through some situations that you cannot really explain what you are feeling at the time. I hope that makes sense to you, because it did to me. Sometimes I was going through some situations that I could not, there's no way that I could explain how exactly I am feeling to someone else. And because of that, I learned to depend on me emotionally. I have persons that I can talk to, but when it comes to certain decisions and when it comes to dealing with my emotions, I learned to depend on me for that as well. Because, as I say before, you will have persons around you, but you cannot explain exactly how you are feeling. A good source for me, and one of the easiest way I find to deal with certain issues is by talking to God. So I absolutely feel that I cannot make life on my own without God. I am a firm believer in that. So usually when I get overwhelmed, I just pray. I pray a lot. So I'm encouraging you tonight to, if you are faced with a situation like the one I was faced with, and you realize that you are left alone and you have the big decisions to make, and you are wondering what your next move is, just start with God. um when you're making decisions, pray about it first. Pray about it. If you have someone that you can confide in, you pray about it and you talk to them, and you write down things that you want to remember, and you write down, you do budgeting, you get your books and you write down what needs to be done, and you write down your income. That's another thing. I was never writing down my income. Like, I was just spending. My money was just coming in and I was just spending, and I was not saving. So I was reading a book. This book, actually, I'm going to show you one of my books. And I was at a part in the book, and it was saying that you should have at least 6 months of the amount of money it needs for you to do a month. Like, all of your monthly bills and expenses, you should have 6 times the amount saved. I didn't even have 1 times the amount saved. So this book has really helped me to find myself back somewhat. So on top of budgeting and writing down things and praying and talking to God, I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of self-reflecting, and I don't have a lot of friends. I have a few very good friends and persons that I can trust, that I can talk to, because trust me, no man is an island. Sometimes you need people. I remember at one point before my divorce, my smaller sister came to me and she said, "Listen to this song." And it was Fantasia. You can listen that song. It says "Even Angels." And I was saying, oh my God, this is like all the things that I have to be doing on my own that I wasn't used to doing. And I am still okay, and I know that you can be okay too. I know that you will be okay too. It just takes time. It takes time. I I'm hoping that my video can help someone who is somewhat stuck in deciding how to go about getting independency, and after divorce or after a breakup or after you lose someone, because sometimes it's not just divorce and breaking up. As I mentioned in my last video, sometimes we lose persons by death, and we need to move on. It's not that you're forgetting the persons, it's just that you have to find a way to continue your life, because life continues. Even the time I was being depressed and buying fast food, life was continuing. The bills still came in, the kids still have to go to school, I still had to live. So I hope I can encourage someone to just be your best self, right? To just depend on you, pray, write down what you need to remember, and stay womaned up. Until next time, I am Tamara, your host. If you're joining me for the first time, please like, share, and subscribe. And again, if there's anything that you need me to talk about that could help you, or that you feel could help someone else that is viewing, just leave a comment on my video and I'll be sure, if it's something that I can talk about, I'll be sure to do my best to shed a little light on whatever the topic is. Until next time.